Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedlie. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out to you and to the entire planet from the beautiful, book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest neighborhood in all of Boston. We are so very happy and so honored that you would join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Player FM, YouTube. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Really wonderful show lined up for you today. First up, Kimberly Delude is here to celebrate Freddie the Fly. Kimberly is an author and speech pathologist. She has some really fascinating insights. Later in the show, Wanda Arlene Barajas will be here to celebrate Benny the Brave, a story of love, loss, and learning. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by When Jungle Jim Comes to Visit Fred the Snake, written by Dr. Peter Cotton. Have you ever missed a friend so much you wish they could travel across the world just to see you? And when Jungle Jim comes to visit Fred the Snake, Fred is feeling really lonely. He misses his good friend Jungle Jim and all the wild adventures they used to share. But true friendship doesn't fade with distance. It finds a way. So Jungle Jim does something amazing. He sets sail on an old shipping boat, braving the wild seas, all to visit his buddy Fred in South Carolina. And he doesn't come alone. He brings along a whole animal menagerie, and even a very special guest, a charming lady snake named Bernadette. This delightful story is filled with humor, heart, and the kind of joyful imagination kids absolutely love. But more than that, it's a beautiful reminder that friendship is worth the journey and that we're never truly alone when we care about one another. Written by Dr. Peter Cotton, who we loved having on Reading with Your Kids, this is another wonderful adventure in the beloved Fred the Snake series, a collection of stories that celebrate kindness, courage, and connection. So snuggle up, read together, and take a trip across the sea, because with Fred the Snake, every story is an adventure, and every adventure is filled with heart. Join us right now from not too far from our Reedville studios. Our guest is here today to celebrate. Her picture book is called Freddie the Fly. Please welcome to the show, Kimberly Delude. Kimberly, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Delighted to have you on. You know, a lot of people say nothing good happens on social media. Well, Kimberly and I met each other on X, and that's a good thing. So at least one good thing has happened on social media.
Right? We could add one thing to the list now.
Yeah. So talk to me, please, about Freddie the Fly. Who is this guy?
Sure. So Freddie is a very lovable fly. However, at school and in different situations, he runs into a variety of problems like listening or reading nonverbal cues, and he needs the help of his friends and classmates to kind of figure out how to solve all these different problems and just, have fun, but also be doing it in an effective way.
Yeah. Is the hope that when kids are sitting down with a parent or a trusted adult when they're reading Freddie the Fly together, is it that the hope that maybe a kid who's struggling in school with some of these issues might sit back and say, I know someone like that. That's me.
Yes, that's definitely one of the hopes. I find both the kids and the adults reading them sometimes will say, I know someone like that, or even, when I was younger, I struggled with those same things. I think when they sit down together, they can build those connections and kind of build a nice conversation around that and not feel so alone.
Yeah. I think that's really important. I think a lot of parents think they need it. You know, our kids put us up on pedestals. You know, we're the most important people in their lives, and you know, we can do no wrong. And anytime a young parent asks me, I always tell them, get off that pedestal as fast as you can, because you got to fall off at some point. And you know, you don't want to disappoint the kids, but if you can share with your kids that, hey, I struggled with the same things you're struggling with, and I was able to overcome it, and I know we can do this together.
I agree so much. I think having that relatability and vulnerability is really important because, like you said, the kids do. They think they couldn't possibly understand. They know everything or they're doing everything perfectly. So being able to show them that you either struggled with the same thing or even as you're doing things, pointing out, hey, I just made a mistake there. Cool. And just say no big and be able to kind of move on is really powerful for them.
Yeah. What was the initial inspiration for Freddie the Fly?
So the initial inspiration, I was actually in grad school and I was, learning to do speech therapy and I was working with this kid and he just did not really have any interest in what we were working on because all the social skills stuff I could find were either very adult centric books or, they were kind of just do this, like lists and they weren't very fun. So I think in my, sleep lacking brain, I went home one night and just kind of crafted the first story and drew these terrible pictures because drawing is not something that I am great at. So thank you to Brian Martin, who has made all the books so lovely. I drew the initial pictures and brought it in and he loved it. So I just kind of kept going from there. So the students I work with tend to be my inspiration, something I'm seeing that they're struggling with. If I can find a way to make it really fun and relatable, that's usually my goal.
Yeah. I love that you're in grad school, you're learning, and instead of sitting there kind of waiting for somebody to give you permission to do something or waiting for somebody to ask your opinion, you said, there's a problem here, and I think I'm the one that can fix it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely in the speech field, education probably too. A lot of the times people going in like to make their own materials and are problem solvers. So, not just going to sit there and say, let's just, struggle through, say, okay, I think I can solve this and try it out. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah. And anytime we have a speech therapist on, I have to give credit to people in the field. When I was a kid, I had a speech impediment that rears this ugly head on occasion, especially when I'm tired or dealing with certain. I would have had a hard time with Freddie the Fly, and I had a wonderful speech therapist who actually had a really bad, or as we would say here in Boston, a wicked bad stutter, and he really helped me in a whole lot. My kids, when I did educational magic shows for years, up and down the East Coast and Midwest and whatnot. And I would oftentimes get home from maybe doing a show down in Philadelphia and then driving home. And I'd get in at 7:30 at night. My wife would go, great, I'm tapping out. You get the kids. And I go, okay, kids, what do you want to read? And they would always get, and it took me a while to figure out that they were diabolical. They would always pick up Fox and Socks.
Ooh.
For me to read. And man, that was tough.
They were challenging you.
Challenging me, yes. They were tormenting me.
But I'm sure they loved the time together too.
Well, they did. And that's the whole reason I started reading with your kids is because I know that the relationship I have with my now adult kids was built on a foundation of reading together. And laughing about not being able to say Fox and Socks without stuttering and all the other things that we did together. Reading together led to watching TV together and cooking together and with my daughter dancing together, with my son wrestling together. It's just a beautiful, beautiful way. As a speech therapist, one of the things I hear is that when you read to your kids 20 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, every day, by the time they get to kindergarten, they will have already heard 800,000 to 1 million more words than their peers who weren't read to. Is that something that you found to be true?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I don't know the exact amount more, but reading with them and just having that interaction, speaking with them about the books you're reading has been shown in the research to increase language by a very large margin. So it's that ability to, sit down, have that shared time. They're hearing new vocabulary. They're seeing it in new contexts. And then you're having more conversations after, like you mentioned with your kids. So all of that improves and increases language.
Yeah. And you can tell there, I don't know if you teach in a affluent suburb, not the most affluent, but a pretty good school system. I bet you have kids like my son. My son was going into kindergarten using 50-cent words. I mean, prehistoric and neurologic and all these other words. And when I see 5-year-olds do that, it's like, it blows me away. I think it's funny, but it also tells me, oh, this kid's being read to every day.
Mm-hmm. They are sponges. They are going to pick it up. I think that it's a disservice sometimes too, in even looking at books when they're like, oh no, we have to use, smaller words or kid-friendly words. It's actually the opposite. If you're putting them in there and using them, they will learn them. And then you'll see that, like you said, they will start using them. And it's just really a wonderful thing to expose them to.
Yeah. That's one of the things I dabbled in writing, children's books myself, and I guess they're officially on Amazon, but I wouldn't know it because no one buys them. But anyways, I remember sharing during the editing process, somebody said, "Well, I don't think I forget what the word was. It was maybe champion or it was a 3-syllable word." And they said, "I don't think kids are going to know that word." And I said, "Yeah, but this is going to be read to them by their parent, and the parents are going to be able to tell them what the word means. And that's kind of how you learn, right?"
Exactly. No, I think it's great to have, those challenge words in there, because either if it helps with the reading, they're learning to read bigger words if they're reading along with you, or if they don't know it, again, it's going to stop and create a conversation. Or what I love to do even sometimes is, if it's an unknown word, use the picture. See if you can stop and say, oh, we've used this word. Is there any context within this that you can now use to kind of solve it yourself?
Yeah.
And then that creates more of those conversations.
It's interesting. We've had some great conversations with teachers over the years here in Reading with Your Kids. And I've heard, especially when it comes to kindergarten, that you're a lot younger than I am, but what I experienced is in kindergarten, where it was a time for us to go and learn how to play and get along with one another, that's really gone now. That kindergarten is like first grade. And I'm just a dope, but it seems that concerns me. But what kind of changes have you seen in the speech therapy field that you either think is fantastic, or I don't know if we should be going in that direction?
Yeah, I feel like that's very true. And I've seen lots of different changes, and some probably for the good, but a lot within the expectations, not so much. I think you're right. They're expecting kids to, have all these skills at a much younger age, and language wise and development wise, like the tests we would use and stuff, don't even start at some of these ages, because that is not actually where they should be. So the schools are kind of sometimes placing these higher expectations than developmentally where they should be. Mm-hmm. And then I think the other big one, kind of you mentioned too, is around play. They're, more and more they want it in the classroom. Even read alouds are kind of, looked kind of like down on, not as learning, when they are such learning tools. They need that time to play. That's how they're building the social skills. They're learning to interact. If they have a conflict, that's great. That's a learning experience too. But if we're taking that all away and it's all about, just doing worksheets or rote memorization, they're going to lose or not develop these skills that normally they would.
Yeah. You mentioned memorization. My beautiful wife taught in the Boston Public Schools for 34 years as a special needs teacher. And she had a student, and the student just wasn't learning how to read. And my beautiful wife was asking the parent, listen, could you help read with the kid? And the parent turned around and said, this kid can read, and handed the child a book. But all he had memorized one book. he could turn the pages, but if my wife stopped him and said, "What's that word?" Nothing. And so the parent, didn't understand that. So you're right. There has to be understanding, not just memorization.
Completely. I mean, you're not really learning if you're just memorizing, because look at that. Like, yes, he could repeat back what he heard, but what was he taking from that? Did he actually understand what the story was about? Could he, summarize it in a way that somebody else would even know what the book was? So just forcing memorization is not a great way to develop language or to learn.
Yeah. I have this crazy idea, Kimberly, and you can tell because, like I said, you're the expert. I'm just a dummy. But wouldn't it be helpful if before the kids get to kindergarten, and we expect them to get to kindergarten learning, maybe we sit down with parents and we teach them a little bit about how to get our kids ready for kindergarten?
That would be amazing. I think that, everyone could probably use some lessons together. And in early intervention for speech, that is kind of the way it's gone, where you go, into the home and you're kind of showing the parents how to interact to build that language if they're delayed speakers. So I think the same model could just work in general for everyone, maybe even showing parents like, hey, this is the way to read a book with your kid. This will spark that conversation and help build the language pieces.
Yeah. So let's get back to Freddie the Fly in particular. What kind of things, if is this a book that we want to get if we're noticing that our kids have a speech delay, or is this something that every kid's going to enjoy?
I think that every kid, could benefit from these books, because like you mentioned before too, even if it's not that they're a motor mouth, that's one of the books and one of the skills they're working on, they probably know somebody. So just having them be able to identify, and then maybe, they can help the friend kind of work on those skills as well. It doesn't always, need to come from the adult instruction. It can come from peers helping them learn these different skills, because in the books, usually his friends are helping him as well.
Yeah. Such a great lesson. How empowering would that be if, a kid is able to help his friend get over a challenge? That'd be pretty neat.
Right. And I think it would be well received usually, because sometimes hearing it from another kid, they can say it in a way maybe that's more receptive than when a grown-up's coming and telling you something where it might feel like, you're wrong or you're not doing something right, versus somebody else who's also just learning. It might be received in a better way.
Yeah. I know my beautiful wife loved teaching, and she loved that one-on-one interaction she had with the kids. And despite all the frustration that she felt with the administration and whatnot, and all the challenges that especially urban teachers face, she could go home at the end of the night and say, I did this. I helped out a kid, which is something I'm sure that you're able to do as well. But as an author now, you're teaching kids not only in the classroom, but you're teaching kids like all over the country through your books. Have you been able to sit down and take the time to think, yeah, I'm kind of doing this on a bigger level than I used to?
I don't know that I've sat down really and done that. I kind of keep it focused on the students I'm directly working with, and then haven't thought about it on a more wider scale. But now that you mention it, I feel like that does make sense. And I guess my thought would be like, these are the strategies I use with the students I work with. So I feel good about, having other people reading them and using them, because they're tried and true tactics that I use in my own practice.
Yeah. Tell me, do the kids in your school know that Miss Delude is a author as well?
Not that many of them, actually. I don't usually broadcast it to them directly. I've told some friends if they were, not enjoying writing, or we had to work on the skill ourselves, but it's something I kind of keep on the download with them.
We gotta get you doing a reading in your school, so everybody in the school buys your book and gets it autographed.
I mean, that would be good, but I think it would be impressive if most of even my own students remembered my name sometimes. I get, the game lady's here, or if they knew me from preschool, it would be, Miss Kim. So it'd be interesting to see.
Hey, I want to take a moment. We had a guest on not too long ago, Tori Molandano, and he's a teacher in New York City, and he's a writer of middle grade novels. And he had an experience where he was doing a reading, and a student came up and was really talking. Oh, your book was great, and I love it, and the teachers afterwards said to him, she doesn't talk in class. And I had a similar experience myself. I brought a kid up on stage, and hey, what's your name? Nothing. There's a Spanish city. ¿Cómo se llama? Nothing. Well, you're nervous. Don't worry. There's a lot of people here. Hey, give my friend a round of applause. She starts talking to me, and she starts talking to me in English. And afterwards, the teacher came up to me and said, "Kid's been out of school for 2 years. She hasn't said a word to anybody. We didn't know that she could speak."
Oh, wow.
And I've since learned that there's this thing called selective mutism. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, because, like I said, I just talked to Tori about this not too long ago. Do you have any experience or expertise so that I can kind of understand that whole thing a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, selective mutism is definitely something that you see. We've worked with it in the schools. A lot of times we'll work with like the psychologists as well. But a lot of it is around, making the child feel comfortable. There's that anxiety piece to it. It's a control piece that when it's in a new situation or a situation, they're kind of perceiving as a threat, they'll kind of shut down. So the fact that, you could get them up there and make them feel that comfortable so that they would say anything is very impressive. In the past, I mean, when I worked on it, it's usually like a long process of building up just to even have them maybe whisper to you first. I remember a student, this was when I was still in grad school, and the semester I was at this placement, a student had selective mutism, and we just had a goal of getting her to whisper to us one time the entire semester. And when she did, she loved dance parties. So then we did it, and we threw this huge party for her. So it's a long process, but it's really exciting when you can make that connection and be that adult or person that they feel safe with.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you from that experience that I had now, that girl, she was about 10, is probably in her late 40s now. But I was with one of the assistant superintendents of the district, and when the teacher came up and told us that, it blew us away, because what the teacher said was, "I'm doing a magic show," and the teacher said, "What kind of magic did you use to get this kid to talk?" And I'm like, what's wrong with you? But it was, you must feel on occasion the way I felt that day. It's like, it's like you're part of a miracle almost. That here is this child that's struggling to communicate, and something that you did unlocked something.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is magic, right? When you can find that piece, or, you put in the effort, and they put in so much effort too, and you can get to that, shared goal. Cause I'm sure, they want to communicate, they want to share, they're working on their sounds and they can't say them. So when you can find those pieces and make it so that they feel confident and they are doing that, it really is, magical. And I love when, we have a speech graduation. While I'm sad that, they're leaving me, it's like, okay, all of us did our jobs together and we had this amazing thing happen.
Yeah. Tell me, are there going to be more Freddie the Fly books?
Right now there isn't one in the works, but I would, love to do a new one, or even kind of another similar series to Freddie. I have a different thing that's coming out in 2 months now, an early reader. Oh,
tell us about it, please.
Yeah, it's called Digital Red. It's actually a modern fairy tale. It's reimagining Little Red Riding Hood, but now with the stranger danger and everything being online technology. And it's coming out with the Little Press in May.
That is such a genius idea. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like, again, with the students, all of them are so technology obsessed that it was one of those connections of like, oop, they all love fairy tales, but, none of them include technology. So let's try to meet them where they are.
Yeah, because people don't understand. I hope parents are starting to get it. But, this thing that everybody has in their pocket, and including kids, young kids, it's wonderful because it gives your kids a doorway to the world and to all this information. And that is beautiful. But at the same time, it gives all the creeps and predators in the world a doorway to your kid. And I don't know that every parent is aware of that. And certainly kids aren't aware of that. And I'm glad that you're creating something that will help kids become aware of that.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. It was kind of eye-opening to me that, kindergartners, first graders, they were so into technology, so good at it, and had much more access, both at school and at home, than I think a lot of people realize. Some of those, simple games they love to play, or just watching some YouTube videos, a lot of the times they'll have more access to either chats or other pieces that I don't think people realize, and they might not know yet that that could be a dangerous situation because it's new to them.
Yeah. That 10-year-old that you're talking to on Roblox is probably 34 or 40 and creepy.
Exactly. Because there's no way to know, because you can say whatever you want online. So, and I think a lot of kids think, an online, follower or something is a friend, and it's important to realize that that's not the same thing. Right.
Exactly. Well, I am super stoked that is coming out. Tell us again when it's coming out and by who?
It's coming out May 12th by the Little Press.
Excellent. Well, we should also tell folks where they can go to find out more about Freddie the Fly and find out more about you.
Yeah. So for all of that, you can go to my website, which is kimdbooks.com, or just I'm on Instagram as the Speech Vine, Twitter, or I guess it's X now, right? I keep forgetting that it has a new name. I believe that's Kim D Books as well. So any of those places, I have a lot of Freddie info and upcoming book info as well.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Freddie the Fly. Our guest has been Kimberly Delude. Kimberly, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much. This was fabulous.
Hey, this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by AspireDrinks.com. Hey, I have a quick question for you. Have you ever wanted a little extra energy, but not the kind that makes your heart race or leaves you crashing an hour later? Well, that's exactly why I want to tell you about Aspire Drinks. You'll find them at AspireDrinks.com. Aspire calls itself a healthy energy drink, and honestly, that description really fits. Instead of loading you up with sugar or extreme caffeine, Aspire delivers a gentle, steady boost with 80 milligrams of natural caffeine from green tea and guarana. That's about half the caffeine of most energy drinks, enough to help you stay focused without the jitters or the crash. It's also zero sugar, 0 calories, and 0 artificial additives, which makes it a great choice for parents, teachers, and anyone trying to make healthier choices while still getting things done. And get this, it actually tastes great, light, crisp, and lightly sparkling, with flavors like sweet cherry, raspberry acai, mango lemonade. That's what I love. No heavy aftertaste and easy on the stomach. Aspire is packed with B and C vitamins, biotin, and ginger. And it's vegan, gluten-free, keto-friendly, really designed for real life. And just for Reading with Your Kids listeners, you can get an exclusive discount of 20% off. That's the highest discount available when you shop at AspireDrinks.com and use our promo code READ. That's READ at AspireDrinks.com. Healthy energy done right.
Attention, this important consumer alert is brought to you by CBC Funding. Hey, did you know it's possible to receive upfront money from your structured settlement, annuity, or pending lawsuit? It's true. If you are receiving a structured settlement spread out over time and you want a lump sum amount delivered immediately, then you need to call CBC Funding. With your cash today, you can pay off credit card debt, pay medical bills, fund your education, or improve your home. You don't need to wait. Structured settlements are commonly used to resolve personal injury lawsuits. Annuities, they're designed to spread payments out over 10 or 20 years. For many of you in need of money today, this simply does not work. If you have a structured settlement and you want cash now, call CBC's Settlement Funding. Here's the number.
800-442-0665. 800-442-0665. That's 800-442-0665.
This episode of Reading with Your Kids is sponsored by Ramble Office. You know, before I tell you about Ramble Office, let me tell you about what travel used to look like for me. When I take the Reading with Your Kids studio on the road, it was like a lot. I had one box for the mixer, another case for microphones, a satchel for my laptop, cables everywhere. And I always felt like I was forgetting something. That's why Ramble Office really clicked with me. Rambo takes everything I used to juggle, tech gear, personal stuff, and puts it into one smart, great-looking unit that's designed to be a mobile office, not just luggage. Everything has a place. Everything stays protected. And when you get to where you're going, you're ready to work. Instead of digging through bags or repacking your life every time you move, Ramble keeps your setup organized and ready to deploy. Travel days stop being chaos and start being productive. It's sleek, modern, built for people whose work doesn't stop just because they're on the move. And if your job follows you, whether that's podcasting, teaching, consulting, or creating, Ramble is worth a look. Go to rambleofficeanywhere.com, all one word, rambleofficeanywhere.com. Use the promo code READ, R-E-A-D, and receive 5% off any product. It's exclusive for Reading with Your Kids listeners. Check it out today, rambleofficeanywhere.com, promo code READ. Join us right now from beautiful Southern California. Our guest is here today. Celebrate her brand new picture book. It's called Benny the Brave, a story of love, loss, and learning. Please welcome to the show, Wanda Arlene Barajas. Hey, Wanda, how are you?
Hi, Jed. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to join you.
Happy to have you on. I understand Benny is a brave dog.
He is. Benny is super brave, and I think we should all learn from him.
Well, let's learn a little bit more about him. What makes Benny so brave?
So, Benny is Benny the Brave itself. It's a children's book that was actually a picture children's book, by the way, that was inspired by our own rescue dog, Benny.
Okay.
So Benny was a rescue dog. He came to us, I think it was at 4 months. He was he is a happy dog. So he was a happy, very playful self until he had an accident that changes his life. It changed his life. He lives without one of the front legs, and it's a big, scary moment. And throughout the story by itself, the book itself, we don't shy away from that. I didn't want to shy away from that, but it gently shows kids that being brave doesn't mean that you're never afraid. So that's what Benny is so special, because he showed us that, you know, even through hard things, it means that you keep on going.
Yeah. Now, do we find out in the story what happened to Benny and how he lost his leg?
We don't go into the details. I didn't want to bring, the whole full details of it, but the important things was what you learned from it, right? What the story, what's the meaning, what is it that we're trying to portray? What you was talking about big feelings, talking about fear, talking about sadness, talking about frustration, because you see Benny frustrated on the book, and also hope. And we wanted to bring it in a way that feels safe and understandable for young children. So for young readers.
Yeah. The idea that our life can change in an instant, it's so very, very true. Life is fragile and it can change. I learned that myself a couple of years ago. I had a little misunderstanding with the set of stairs and ended up in a wheelchair for 3 months and PT for a year and a half. So, and there are lots of kids whose parents experience a big change, kids experience a big change. So, I think it's important to kind of talk about these things with our kids even before they happen. I think it's even more important to talk about changes and bravery and loss before we actually are into it, so the kids have some experience dealing with it and talking about it.
That is correct. I think so too. I think it's important that we talk about what we call the hard things, right? With kids, because they're already feeling, especially with kids, and this goes to adults as well, but with kids, they're already having those feelings. We've been there. We've been kids before. And even before those words are out there, when we talk about openly and honestly, in a way, obviously age appropriate, it helps kids feel safe, I think. I think it feels that they can be seen and that they can be understood. So it shows that big feelings aren't something that you should be afraid of, and that they don't have to be, face those moments alone. So that's the importance of this story as well. Those conversations that help to build trust, and that it gives kids the confidence to ask questions, right? To express emotion. And the most important thing that I think on all of this is that, as you mentioned, it's healthy. It's a healthy way to teach them how to cope with this hard and difficult times and difficult situations.
Yeah, yeah. What I've joked here on the podcast before that one of the things I'm most proud of my daughter is, and most proud of helping her learn, is that she has the ability when we're in a moment of crisis, whether it's health, whether it's being stuck out on the road, she's able to sit back and say to me, this is going to make for a good story someday. And I think, if our kids can have that kind of, this is hard, but we're going to get through it. We're going to be able to talk about it at some point. I think that's an incredibly valuable skill for us to help our kids learn.
Absolutely. I think so too. I think, it's like you say, you're looking back and, one of the things is that, especially just like you talked about your daughter, when I talk to my kids, is that, it's those to remember that healing in things that you go through, doesn't mean that, you're going back to where you were. It's just learning from it, right? It means that you're discovering who you are, and you're discovering new things, and you're discovering, that you're becoming something else, and experiences, just all those experiences, are very important in life.
Yeah. What experience in your life inspired you to become a children's author?
So, funny enough, my undergrad, it's on public relations and journalism, and I have worked in smaller newspapers in Spanish and English, and in industry, obviously. And ever since my kids were small, I definitely wanted to write. And it is so funny because I have a journal and I write things in there, and anything that comes to mind, I write it in there. And I always had this ideas of, writing for my kids. So they grow older, and I'm like, well, I guess that boat sailed out. And then this happened, and I talked to my daughter and I said, I have written so many things down about what happened to Benny, and, how the dogs reacted, Luna and Milo, because they are included in the story. And I said, I have everything down, and I feel like this is my moment to do what I wanted to do. And she said that she even cried when she read the books, because she was like, I know it's a sad story, but at the same time, if it wouldn't be because that happened, you probably wouldn't have taken that plunge and go for it. And I said, absolutely. So I always wanted to do it, never had the opportunity. And when this happened, I think, especially too, and the fact of all the things that are going around, I wanted to write something that felt that, teach kids early about that empathy and about family and about love. And I think that was my push.
Yeah. Yeah. Family, Wanda, you and I were talking earlier today about our connections with the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. That's where you grew up. It's where my wife spent at least half of her youth. It's a place that I love and have spent countless days traveling around and performing there. Family is a huge part of Puerto Rican culture. Can you, with Bad Bunny getting ready to play at the Super Bowl, by the time you hear this, it will probably have been done. But just talk, I think Puerto Rico and Puerto Rican culture is one of those things that we hear about, but unless we visited more than San Juan and Via San Juan, or if we don't have somebody that's close to us from Puerto Rico, we don't really kind of get it. It's just kind of this thing. So talk a little bit about Puerto Rico and why family is so important in Puerto Rican culture.
It is super important. It's ingrained in us, right? When we are born, we are taught to, family is super important. You have your grandma, your abuelita, and you have your grandpa, your abuelito, you have your aunts and your uncles. And I don't know, but for the most part of my family, we're pretty big. We have a lot of aunts and a lot of uncles. And growing up, I remember always being around my family, whether it was for a party of music or whatever it was, celebrations, every celebrations, always very close to family. And it's something that is on us. It's very hard it's what you said. It's very hard to probably explain it too. It's probably hard to understand it, but it's also hard to explain it because for us, it's very natural. It's like you're very close to your family and it comes with everything. It comes with the music. It comes with the food. It comes with, your friends. Your friends are your family. A lot of the times you hear, oh yeah, my cousin so-and-so. Oh yeah, really? Who's, by what side of the, oh yeah, no, they're my neighbors, but we're like cousins. So everything is we are very, very, close knit, I will say. And I think it's, so I'm Puerto Rican. I'm from Puerto Rico. I grew up in Puerto Rico. My husband is actually from California, of Mexican descent, and it's the same way. It's like they're it's a good mix because we are very, very, a close knit and it's everything about family and food and music, as you mentioned. So yes.
Yeah, I love it. It's a culture that I've adopted, and the food is. I was talking to another guest earlier when I first met my beautiful wife, and we announced that we were getting married. A lot of my friends are like, "Oh, dude, it's so different. The culture, the language. Oh my goodness, it's how is it? It's all gonna clash." And I quickly found out that it's really not all that different. I mean, Puerto Ricans eat rice and Irish eat potatoes, but otherwise, family's important, getting along with each other, don't mess with us. All very, very similar.
Correct. I heard the same thing. Let me tell you. I heard the same thing. I met my husband in the military prior service. I served in the Army, and that's where actually I met my husband. Mm-hmm. And we were both active duty in the military. And when I said, yes, I met this guy and I fell in love and I'm going to marry this guy. Oh, really? Yes, he's from Mexico. What? You guys have nothing in common. You guys don't talk the same. The food is not the same. And I was like, well, we get our own perfectly fine. So, so you hear that, but it is true. It is true. A lot of the times you hear things like that, but it's all about how you are. And, I think a lot of the time also is, in the environment that you are, right? So, and, so it's your environment. And, I never had any issues. I think, it's a big family, a lot of love, and everybody. I think that everybody that I have met, being in the military, I have met people from everywhere. So, it teaches you that if you are correct, that we are pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Different flavors, different spices, different languages, but the stuff that's most important is, I think, universal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Love, togetherness, all that is universal. That's for sure.
You know, I was looking on your website, Wanda, and I saw that your upcoming book, Karina and Sabi, A Journey to the Heart of Sidra, is celebrating Puerto Rico. Can you talk a little bit about that book?
100%. So yes, so I am super excited. So I already finished most of the writing. The illustrator is working on it. The book is actually about the town of Sidra, which it is in the middle of Puerto Rico, south of San Juan, give or take. And the book, it is actually going to talks about what is called the Paloma Sabanera, which is a dove it's mainly out of the center of Puerto Rico, and is endangered of extinct. So that's the reason I wanted to bring that, is more of an awareness, right? It's a children's book, but it brings the awareness of preserving what is ours, is doing the right things. Once again, you teach children early how to treat things that are around you. So that's what the book is about. It's funny, Karina is actually my daughter's name, but it's spelled with the K. The book is going to be spelled with the C because my son's name is Calvin with the C. So that's what it's about. But I am super excited. I have worked with the illustrator, which is a different illustrator than my first book, but it's I am super excited. I have talked to people from Puerto Rico, from the conservation of the Paloma Sabanera. I did a lot of research, so I'm super excited about this book that is coming. I'm hoping by the summer, because in November there is they have this celebration of the Paloma Sabanera in Puerto Rico, and I will love to be there for that.
Yeah. Just going back to talking about the island, it's such an amazing place. You can pretty much drive around the island in about a day, depending on traffic. Route 2 just goes all the way around. But you can literally go from being in the middle of a tropical rainforest to a dry forest on the southern side of the island. You can be in the heart of San Juan, which is a big city, and then drive 90 minutes down to Ponce, which is also a big city, but it feels like you're being transported in time. It feels much older, and it's such a diverse place. And if you haven't been to the rainforest and you don't have a passport and you want to know what it's like, but you can't get down to the Amazon or Central America, go to Puerto Rico, visit El Yunque. I was amazed walking through El Yunque, and I'm looking at these flowers, these orchids that are growing wild, and saying to my wife, cost me $25 to buy one of those, and this thing's just growing wild in the forest here.
Yes, not only that, but they keep them alive. I was gifted 2 orchids and I couldn't keep them alive. So yes, that is true. But you are correct. You go to different places and every place has a different flavor. If you go to Canóvanas, you see where, the history of La Bomba and the Plena and, all those things. If you go to Ponce, the same thing, the Plena de Ponce. So in the food, if you go to the center of the island, you tend to eat more of the meats and things like that. If you go on the surroundings around it, you get the fish and everything that has to be with seafood. And then the structure is the same thing. You go to Viejo San Juan, you have El Morro, you have things like that are very old, but then you go to different places that you feel like you are, very new places, new buildings and things like that. So it's very different. And, it's funny because when I was in the military, people thought Puerto Rico we were still like in Indians with the, it's just so funny. I was like, no. And given it's been a long time, I left the military in 1995. So it's been a long time, but, it has come a long way, but Puerto Rico is very, very modern. You go to a lot of places, very modern, but you still have that feel of that old feel, right? That family feel. So yeah. And I enjoy that, and I love it that you have so much fun going to El Yunque and enjoying Puerto Rico. I love it.
It's a beautiful place. Back 30 years ago, I wrote a song called Yo Soy Boricua, and it was a crazy song. And me singing it in my shows with my big, obviously white face, it made lots of kids giggle. But it's a wonderful culture. I feel like we should talk to the tourist board. I think we just did a commercial.
I know, right?
To Puerto Rico.
They just did one too with two of the biggest artists of Puerto Rico, which was Daddy Yankee and Olga Tañón. They did some stuff together. They just showed it a couple of weeks ago. It's pretty good. So I still keep my root. My dad's still in Puerto Rico, so I do still keep a lot of the root and connections with Puerto Rico, even though I live on the other side completely. It takes me a day and a half to get there, but yes.
Yeah. Well, let's tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Benny the Brave, a story of love, loss, and learning, and where they can be the first to know when The Heart of Cedra comes out.
Perfect. So Benny the Brave is actually currently on all the platforms, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, anywhere where you can find books, Benny the Brave will be there. And then for additional information and the updates and things like that, you can go to my website, www.wandabarajas.com. And actually, I have all my social media tags in there, so you know anybody could find me there.
Yeah. So we have to write. After the new book comes out, maybe write something about the phosphorescent bay, and there's the glowing fish down in different parts of the island, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but driving from San Juan to Aguadilla, there's a rise right before you kind of go up the highway, and then you kind of crest. And as you're cresting, you come over, you have this beach view of Playa Oaxaca that is spectacular.
Yes.
And it's a really fascinating beach, and there's a tunnel. I imagine you could write a great story about going through the tunnel and being in a different world. And I'm just excited for you to write more books about Puerto Rico.
Thank you so much. I am excited about that too. I am looking forward. I have a lot of things. It took me a long time to get here to be writing children's book, but I have so many ideas and so many things written down that I want to write about. And I definitely want to concentrate on that. That's what I want to concentrate on. Teaching kids, about, once again, about empathy, about culture, about all those things. And that's where I want to concentrate. And I am definitely looking forward to that. So I will definitely think about Guanica and the water that it brights at night.
Sounds great. And you're welcome back to celebrate those books whenever they're ready.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Benny the Brave, a story of love, loss, and learning. Our guest has been Wanda Arlene Barajas. Hey, Wanda, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Dad. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids. Well, join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Leave a 5-star review, and of course, we would love for you to subscribe to the show wherever you find your shows. And we'd also love for you to connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/Reading with Your Kids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedlie Magic on X. Our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/Reading with Your Kids. And our website, you guessed it, readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Kimberly Delude. Please be sure to check out Freddie the Fly. Also want to thank Wanda Arlene Barajas. Please be sure to check out Benny the Brave, a story of love, loss, and learning. I want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Jackson Santalado. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support and love she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every single time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
Step inside and take a look. A magical world lives in every book. Turn a page, who knows what you'll find. A rocket ship or a trip through time. Wanna meet a pirate or a dinosaur? The library opens every door. Because the library is magic, can't you see? It's a portal to the world and who you can be. Fly to a planet far away or climb a castle wall. In the library, imagination answers every call. Travel to kingdoms long ago. Warp with giants, wizards, snow. Meet heroes from the days gone by. Hear their stories, soar and fly. Dream of futures bright and new. There's a book that's waiting just for you. Oh yeah, the library is magic, pure delight. Where your heart can shine and your dreams take flight. Time machine, treasure map, spaceship on the run. In the library, reading makes adventure fun. Whispered pages start to glow. Where will your imagination go? Every story lights a spark, a little flame inside your heart. Here